Hey guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. Jay Helmsing here. Today I'm going to review a product that I've used for approximately a year, and that's going to be the DryFireMag. So probably a lot of interest out there about this product. A lot of you guys may be curious about it. I definitely feel like there needs to be a review on this product because I won't say that it doesn't do anything that it says it does, but it does stuff in a very specific way. So you should probably know what you're getting into before you buy this product and exactly how it works, so you're not surprised when you get it out of the box. So if you're not familiar with this product, DryFireMag, the claim to fame is that it allows you to fire multiple dry fire shots without having to reset your gun yourself. It doesn't exactly tell you how it does that, but it makes it seem as if it resets the gun for you and allows you to fire multiple dry fire shots. In actuality, it doesn't really work the way you might assume. So we'll kind of get into that in just a moment, but I'll show you the components that come in the DryFireMag box. So obviously there's instructions and whatnot in here, your warranty information and so on. And it is made in the USA, so kudos there. And then you have three main things in there. Now this is going to be for the small frame Glocks or the 9mm 40 and 357 SIG Glocks. And so the first thing is the actual magazine itself, and it's made to be the Glock 17 size, so fits flush in the 17s or in the 34s or anything like that. So same size there. It also fit in the Glock 19s. It's just going to stick out a little bit. As far as I know, they don't make any of the shorter ones just specifically to fit flush. But hey, this isn't part of the grip in that gun, so no loss there. No big deal, right? Also in there, you have a replacement spring. This is a lighter spring, so if you have a 3.5 pound connector or something like that in your gun, this spring is supposed to more closely represent the trigger pull for that poundage. And lastly, you're going to have an Allen wrench, and I'll show you how to make those adjustments in just a moment and where that goes. So with the mag itself, the first few things you probably want to notice, the first thing I should say I noticed when pulling it out of the box is that it's made of not the polymer that you'd expect out of a magazine. It's not very resilient feeling. It's not even a polymer feel. It's more of like a Bakelite plastic sort of thing. So it definitely feels like if you rough handle this or if you dropped it or something from height, it would break, it would crack, or it would shatter. So definitely not a real robust feeling thing as far as being able to throw it around here, there, or wherever. So you want to kind of be careful with this. I've not had any issues, but then again, I've not rough handled it either. So just some things to note right away. Second thing is how it works. So basically you guys see this tab up here, and as your trigger works against this tab, you're going to get a clicking sound, and then you still have some spring tension that's going to push your trigger back forward into the fully reset position. Now, as you guys hear, inside this magazine, there is like one of those carnival or circus clicker type devices, and that's what's going to represent or replicate the dry fire process. So it's not actually releasing the sear or the striker, I should say, in your gun. It is just replicating that feeling and that sound by using a clicker in here. So that's basically what's going to happen as you go to pull the trigger in the gun when this is inserted. This spring right here, this is the stock spring. The black one is supposed to represent the stock Glock feel, and it's pretty close. It doesn't reset probably as hard or quickly as the stock Glock does, but it's pretty close on trigger pull. And that's also where you would replace this spring here if you wanted a lighter pull. So that goes there. And just to note, DryFireMag does now offer a variety, like a package of several different spring weights for this. So if you live in Massachusetts and you have the really stiff springs, they have one for that. They have even lighter springs for more competition tuned guns and things like that. So I think it comes in a package, but you can kind of adjust those according to the feel of your gun and get maybe a little bit closer there. So the adjustment is back here on the back, and that adjusts this little clicker in here to either activate earlier or later to better replicate where the striker release is on your gun. So I did have to make a few little adjustments on mine just by turning it left, right, and kind of getting some some practice in there and just kind of seeing where my gun released from the factory as far as the striker goes, and then I kind of matched that up to the sound here as far as the click goes, and I was able to match it pretty closely fairly quickly. So now I've got it kind of set up where my gun typically releases, so it's more closely replicating the feeling of an actual dry fire. So just to kind of recap, you're not actually dry firing your gun. In other words, the striker is not falling forward, and it is not resetting the striker every time you shoot your gun or you dry fire your gun. So just something to know going into it. It's more of a simulation instead of an actual function of a dry fire process. So maybe that's good because you're getting less wear and tear on the striker and things like that. But then again, it does not fully replicate the feeling of an actual dry fire of your weapon. So I'll kind of get into my philosophy on it, my use in just a moment. But first I want to show you guys how to actually put this in the weapon. So obviously I've got my one gun here, Glock 19. It's been checked clear. We're good to go there. So the first thing you want to do is reset it so the trigger is out. You don't want to do this on a dead trigger because it won't work. Next, you just kind of insert this like a normal magazine, but you're really going to have to use some force as you push it in there. So it's going to go to one click and then just continue to push it up, and it's going to basically bottom completely out. Okay, once it bottoms all the way out, you're going to have a super duper stiff pull on this first one. We're talking like probably 10-15 pounds of pull, and then it's going to break. And if I did my adjustment right about where you heard the click is where the striker fell. So I've got it pretty closely set up to match that feeling there. So after I do that, I then have the ability to basically dry fire my gun all day without having to manually recock it or manually reset that striker. And as you guys see, that's basically the purpose of it there. So you can do some rapid fire strings, some multiple target engagements. You can basically do this all day. Some things that you're limited to. So first off, it does not replicate the exact feel of the trigger. In other words, the glitchiness, the kind of building on that trigger and so forth that I'm used to is not there. It's just more of a, I'd say, an optimal trigger pull. This would be an optimal Glock trigger pull. It does make a clicking sound. There is a wall there. It does break through the wall. It doesn't reset nearly as quickly. It's not as much force in the reset as you're going to have with your actual Glock when dry firing. But you know, it's kind of a give and take. You can't have it all, right? So it does enable you to you know, simulate multiple shots, multiple strings, and kind of work on holding steady while you fire multiple shots. And it's one of the only devices that allows you to do that. A lot of people out there who do a lot of dry fire training will tell you to shoot maybe a full string. So on the first one, you're pulling it out of the holster or whatever, you're actually dropping the striker, and then from then on you're just kind of simulating that trigger pull because you of course have a dead trigger on Glocks. It's not going to reset itself, so you're just kind of simulating. This is kind of a step up from that. It actually gives you another trigger pull and it simulates a dry fire experience. However, it's not exact. It's not as exact as you're going to have if you manually cock the weapon and do dry fire training in that manner. So you know, just some things to think about based on your training. If you want a more realistic feeling as far as what the gun will actually feel like, probably better to hand cock it. If you're training to, you know, train as you fight sort of thing, and you don't want to be messing around doing this because that's not really reality when you're shooting an actual string full of you know, ammunition in here, then this is good for that. So that's kind of how I use it, is I use it to supplement my dry fire. I don't do all my dry fire with this in, but I will engage multiple targets. And at least one session per day, I will use this device, and I'll have, you know, multiple engagements, or I'll have rapid fire strings or something like that to give me some more practice and kind of change that little dynamic a little bit to give me a little bit of an alternate you know, feel as far as my dry fire technique and practice goes. So I do find it very, very useful for that. So in that category, thumbs up. I don't think you'll be using it for all of your dry fire. I mean, it might be wrong, but just my opinion, you probably won't be using it for all of your dry fire because of the way it works and because of the limitations of it. So take that for what it's worth. That's my opinion on the device. I'm going to take this out next, and I'll kind of show you another drawback of it. So if you'll notice, my magazine release is not all the way out there, so it doesn't fit like a normal magazine. I could basically just rip this straight out if I wanted to right now. And the way you get these out, if I go to push my mag release, nothing's going to happen. So it's not like you can drop it out and do like a quick reload, or have two of these and load one in and do some, you know, reload practices or anything like that. It's just not going to work correctly. So you actually have to push this in, push your mag release in, and then physically pull this out of the gun to get it out. And you heard all the little clicks and whatnot as you're pulling it out. So it's not something that's just going to drop out of the gun, and you can't do, you know, reloads and things like that with it. So that's basically my take on this in a nutshell. That's kind of the how-to and the functionality of this. Is it a good product? Well, it is. It is a good product. It's the only thing I know that simulates an actual reset without actually having to fire the gun. So you can do this in your own home. Like I say, you can engage multiple targets. You can do you know, double taps on targets, things like that, and have a more realistic dry fire experience in doing that. It does not replicate the actual trigger pull of a gun. It just there are too many things it does not do in that area as far as making the gun actually work, making the trigger bar, you know, pull the striker back and release the striker and things like that. So the feel through the trigger is going to be different than you're going to get from your regular dry firing experience with the weapon itself. So you should definitely know that. And obviously you can't do some of those mechanics. You can't do some reload drills. You can't do things like that that require magazine changes. So that's kind of another limiting area of it. And I'll talk next about kind of the price point for this. So these are, I believe, around $100. In my opinion, I know this is a small company and it's, you know, probably a lot of intricate little parts and things in here, and they do seem to have a good warranty, at least in the literature. I've never had to use it. It is built well. I've never had to use that warranty. But, you know, for what you get, I don't know, seems maybe a little bit steep. But again, I don't know. I don't make them. I don't know what they have in them. I don't know what the profit margin is. I don't know any of that stuff. So I'm not qualified to speak on that. I will say that, you know, for the price of it, there are some limitations. Let's just put it that way. There are some limitations. I'm happy with it. I use it the way that I've, you know, spoken about in this video. I use it as a supplement. I don't use it as a main dry fire thing. So just something to know going into it. Like if you're looking at either going with like a cool fire trainer or a CO2 trainer, or going with a DryFireMag, you know, just some things to think about. There's some limitations to this. It is more portable. You can take it kind of anywhere, and that's what I've done. I can pack this in a suitcase and take it with me to do some dry firing in hotels and whatnot. So pros and cons, right? Pros and cons is why we do these reviews. But, you know, think about it, and if you guys have any questions, you know, put them in the comments below there. I will get to those as I am able to and give you guys any feedback I can. And again, awesome supplemental dry fire device there. Probably the only thing out there that's going to allow you to do multiple trigger pulls with having some sort of feedback in your gun instead of just imagining everything. So definitely thumbs up in that area. And again, DryFireMag, definitely check them out if you're in the market. And if this sounds like something that might appeal to you or something you might like to add to your normal dry fire technique, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And as always, continue to expand, continue to research these things, and continue to practice your craft to make yourself a better shooter. Till next time, guys.